Okay. Yeah. We left it off over here, Chavav from the 26b. No, thank you. Okay, over here, right in the middle of the page. Boy minei rafilo mi rovo. Yesh muktzal chatzi Shabbos and muktzal chatzi Shabbos. Tomorrow we'll explain what does it mean. Is it possible to have muktzah only for half Shabbos, or there is no such thing as muktzal chatzi Shabbos? Heichi domi, what is the case? What is the situation? If something is fit and available bein hashmoshes when Yom Tov begins or Shabbos begins, so it's not muktzah. And if when Shabbos begins it's not available, so it's muktzah. Lo tzricha dirzi. We're speaking about initially when Shabbos began, Yom Tov began, it was available to the person, it was edible. V'hoda itchik. And then it went into a non-edible state. Then it returned to an edible state. So there was a period of time on Yom Tov or Shabbos where it became inedible. So the question is, and when it's inedible, it's muktzah, because it's not. It loses its status of what? Of a food item. So the question is, do we say once it goes into that inedible state, it remains there, or do we say since when Shabbos began or Yom began, it was edible, even though at that period of time it was inedible, if it returns to an edible state, it does not have the status of muktzah. So that was the question Rafil posed to Rava. Amale yesh muktzah. He says no, that if it goes into an inedible state, then it's muktzah. Yeah, it started off, the classic case is grok. You had grapes and you had figs, so they're edible. You put them up to dry. So at the one stage of the drying process, of course, the way it oozes and the various fluids, it becomes inedible. And then afterwards, only it finishes drying on Shabbos or Yom Tov. So at the end of the day, it's edible. But because there was a time it's inedible, when it becomes edible, is it muktzah because of what happened in the interim? So Rava answered, it's muktzah. Yesh muktzah. Esvei. So they asked Rava, V'shovin shem nolad mumo imosh shezamun minamuchan. Says regarding the animal, it's the first offspring of the cow, and it's born, and as it's born with a mum, it's born with a blemish. It says everybody agrees that what? That it's not muktzah. It's minamuchan v'amai. Nemo hai b'chor meikor havai. Nemo hai b'chor meikor havai chose agivimei. Let's say it like this: before the animal was born, what was it? If you'd slaughtered the mother, you could eat the child that's found within the mother. Is yolad leg. Now the child is born. Itchi leg. It becomes not. It goes into a state, because once it's born, it takes on the status of a bechor. A bechor, you're not permitted to slaughter. Now it has a blemish. It has a blemish. So it was until you show it to the chacham to be able to evaluate whether the mum is a mum or not. It was off limits. So before it was born, when Yom Tov began, this calf you could have eaten if you would have slaughtered the mother, right? Now it's born. You can't eat it, because that has to be determined. The blemish it has is a blemish, not a blemish. But until you show it to the chacham, it's off limits. And now when you show it to the chacham, it becomes, and he says it is a permanent blemish, you can eat it. And it says in the Mishnah, everybody agrees that you what? That you permit it. No. We're speaking about the case when it says if it's born with the mum, that the dayanim was sitting there, and as it was born, it never reached a point that it was even a question. They ruled, as it was born, this animal is not a bechor, meaning it's permitted to eat immediately. So since it never entered into an interim state that it was not edible, therefore it has no relevance to our whole discussion here. Iga di Amri, there's another version. Amalei ein muktzah l'chatz Shabbos. Rav answered Rav Hillel that there is no muktzah, meaning if it started when Yom Tov began, that it was edible, even though it entered into an inedible state. The halacha is if it re-enters in an edible state, it's not muktzah. The first version was it is muktzah. Second version, it's not muktzah. Lemisayele will bring proof to what? To Rava. The Shovin, everybody concurs, Shivnolad, Umumu Imo, Shizemina Muchan, that if the animal is born with its initial, with the blemish initial, not it became blemished afterwards, it's Minamuchan, That before the Bechor was born, before it went through the womb of the mother, if you'd slaughter the mother, you're permitted to eat the calf. When it's born, when it's born, until you show it to the Chochom, you're not permitted to eat it. So it's in a state of not edible. When you show it to the Chochom, it becomes permitted. So we have a proof to Rava that ain't muktzah l'chatzi Shabbos, that it's not muktzah. Amar Abai says there's no proof. Amar Abai v'temer Safra go the Yashi Dainu Hosam, the case of the case where the Bechor was born with the mum, the Dayan was sitting there as the Bechor was being born, so there was never a time the Shiloh ever was a Shiloh. They never had to ask the question. They ruled immediately as it passed through. So therefore, it has no relevance to our discussion. Toshma, learned in the Braisa, person was eating grapes, and the grapes, he had some extra grapes left over. And he puts it on his rooftop. He wants to make raisins. By drying the grapes, he's turning them to raisins. He had extra figs. He put them on the rooftop. To make into dried figs. He's not permitted to eat these grapes of figs, although at the end of the day they're dried, unless they've been pre-designated. The same thing is true regarding pears and chavushim, quince. So the Gemara says, what is the case over here? They were left out, put them on the rooftop. One day he put them on the rooftop, one day they become edible. If actually it's what that initially when Shabbos Yom Tov began, they were already dried. He put it on the rooftop on Thursday. And when Shabbos began, Yom Tov began, they were already dried. They were raisins and they were already dried figs. Lomali Asma, what does he have to pre-designate? A person has food that's edible, you have to designate the food. It's not muktzah. Eid lo chosi, and if it's inedible, even say, that inedible food, I'm designated as food. It's not food. If it's not edible, it's not a food item. So what does the pre-designation help you? Maybe we're speaking about he was unsure whether it was edible or not edible, and his mindset was that if it is edible, he wants it. Let's say you had muktzah that was dry. Meaning, let's say something was muktzah and factually turned out to be dry, and he was unaware. Even if without designation, let's say he put up figs and grapes on Thursday. They're ready dry Friday morning. And he was unaware. Shabbos begins, Yom Tov begins. Just because he's unaware, it doesn't make a difference. If actually they're ready, fit to eat, before Shabbos began, before Yom began, it's not muktzah. So if that's the case, even if he's unsure what it is, it's based on the reality. If it was edible when Shabbos began, when Yom began, it's not muktzah, it's a food item. And if it's not edible, you could designate it from today forever. It's not a food item. El lab the chozu, so what's the case speaking about? The chozu v'yitchu. Initially it was edible. When Yom Tov began, with 5 ounces on the bottom, and then afterwards became inedible. If you hold that something which becomes inedible doesn't assume the muktzah status, when it becomes edible again, what do you need designation? If you tell me that a muktzah l'chatzi Shabbos, muktzah has to be muktzah at the beginning of Shabbos, but if something should happen in the interim, it doesn't cause it to become muktzah, so it becomes edible again, it's edible. So what does it say in the Mishnah we're quoting? Again, it has money, you have to pre-designate it, that when it becomes edible again, you're going to eat it, even without the designation. Ela mai. So what do we see from that Mishnah in Shabbos? Yesh muktzah. There is muktzah. Gemara says, Yasmin, my Avish, Gemara says, and by saying, I want it, what does it help? If actually there was a period of time that it was inedible, and that caused the muktzah, so by saying, despite that, I want to eat it. What is despite? If muktzah is muktzah. Hear this? Meaning like this. Sometimes, let's say it's the interim state, a person who's very particular what he eats wouldn't eat it. But another person who's less particular would eat it. Of course, it's not fully dry. So therefore, by saying, in that state, I will eat it, normally we say the average person would not eat it. So if the average person would not eat it, it's muktzah. But what a person says, despite what the average person, I will eat it, so by making that statement, you're saying that what's not normally seen as not edible is edible, because he'll eat it in that state. You hear this? The irzuv lo irzuv, the ike inshi, the achli, some people do eat it in this state. Vikin Shiloachli, the other people don't eat in this state. Asmin, if he goes and pre-designates it, Goli Daite, so he's revealing that that in this state it's considered edible for him. Lo Asmin, but if he didn't pre-designate it, Lo Goli Daite, that's why it's Muktzah. So it's no proof to our whole discussion over here. Because if actually it's inedible, it's not going to help you by designating it. And if your Yesh Muktzah L'Chatzi Shabbos, and if your Muktzah comes into play, even though it becomes reinstated, again, what does designation help you? Reb Zera. So Reb Zera was still. So we want to bring a proof to this question. Yesh Muktzah L'Chatzi Shabbos, Ein Muktzah L'Chatzi Shabbos. If Shabbos or Yom began, it's not Muktzah. Then it becomes Muktzah. Then it becomes available again. Do we class it as Muktzah or not? Toshma. We have a proof from beans and lentils. Now, when you put beans and lentils to cook, right? You put them on a fire before Shabbos, and they cook. When they're raw, a bean, you could eat a bean when it's raw. You could eat the lentil when it's raw. But when it's partially cooked, it's not cooked, it's not raw, you can't eat it. So it comes out when and the end, when it finishes cooking, you can't eat it. So the question is, how could you eat it? If you say whenever it reaches an edible state, although it reverts back to an edible state, we consider muktzah. So how do you ever eat beans that you cook? You put up to cook at the beginning of Yom Tiv. How do you ever eat it? You cook a pot of beans. Of course, there's going to be a time it's going to be inedible while it's cooking. Or Shabbos, you put up a pot to cook before Shabbos, and it cooks on Shabbos, and you take it off Shabbos morning. There's a period of time that it's inedible. That's how you eat it. That's the most question. Pulin v'adashim, beans and lentils, v'kora chos. Initially, you could eat it raw. You could chew it raw. Shadina b'kedera, when you put it into the pot, itchulu, it becomes inedible. So Rashi says, "Kol zman sheroshim," when they're really hot, you can't eat it. You have to wait for it to cool down. Gome bishulayu, but once it's finished cooking, chosulu, then it becomes edible. And yet the halacha is that you're permitted to eat the beans and the lentils. So what do you see from here? That what? Ein muktzah l'chatzi Shabbos. That although it entered into an inedible state during the cooking process, it says explicitly that you're permitted to eat it. So how could Rava say yesh muktzah l'chatzi Shabbos? Here you see ein muktzah l'chatzi Shabbos, right? Abaye says the question doesn't begin. There's the Alma. What do you have to quote? Be a mishnah of beans and lentils. Anytime you cook anything, you have meat. You cook it up raw. You can eat it. When it's not, it's only partially cooked. It's inedible. Whenever you put a pot up to cook during the twilight period, it's scalding hot. You can't eat it. Right? You can't eat it. But yet that night, later into the night, you serve it at the Suda. When you serve in Suda, it's not as hot as when it's in the pot. When it's in the pot, you can't eat it. That's how scalding hot it is. So what's the difference? So why do we say when you have the grapes and the figs on the roof, there it's muktzah, here it's not muktzah? Elo, gomru b'deodin lo kamivoyle. If actually a person's in control, when you put a pot on the stove, it's just a question, even when you start, you're in control of when it's going to finish. Right? Because you're cooking. You're not relying on the elements. The sun should cook it. When the sun cooks, you're not sure what's going to happen. Because it's all the conditions have to be right for it to finish. So if you have control over it, then it's not muktzah, even though it enters into an inedible state. Because ultimately that inedible state is only considered temporary. But if you're relying on the elements like the sun to dry it and other conditions, it's not simple. When it becomes inedible, do you know it's going to become edible? It's unclear. So that's what we say, yesh muktzah l'chatzi Shabbos. Ki kumoilon, gamru b'nei odom lo kumoilon. If it's completed due to man's action, it's not a question. Ki kumoilon, gamru b'nei shamayim. The question is, do we say yesh muktzah Shabbos where it's completed through b'nei shamayim, where it's all dependent on the sun? And it turns out it worked out. It was inedible, and it worked out, it became edible because the sun was sufficiently hot. And the conditions were right. So Rashi says, what's the rationale? Muktzah is because the person puts it out of mind. If I don't know it's going to be edible, I put it in mind, it's not going to be available to me. What about, you put something on to cook. It takes 3 hours. In 3 hours, it's going to be available. So factually, it's going to be available. You don't put it out of your mind. Right? You see, even in the edible, it's just a question, I'll wait, it'll be edible. When you put something on the rooftop to dry, do you know it's going to be edible when it becomes inedible? You don't know. As a result of that, the person's mindset is that what? He doesn't think it's going to be available. Therefore, it's classified as muktzah. Okay? You looking at the art scroll? Is that what he explains it? Yeah, but that's what Rashi explains it. Rashi explains, since it's within his power to perfect it on the day itself, he doesn't negate it from his mind because he put it in an edible state. He'll go, therefore, citing the Mishnah by beans and lentils, there's no proof, has no relevance. If it's a question of relying on the elements, the sun, since once it becomes inedible, it's not within his control to make it edible. Therefore, he's maximidat, he pushes that in his mind, he negates it in his mind.
Isn't there more than a dust element? Is it a lamaisa? When you go pick up the bean, and it's raw, so it's picking up muktzah.
No, raw bean you could eat raw. You could eat raw. That's why it's called lochus. Lochus means eating something raw. It's edible in the raw state. Okay. Yeah. I'm just quoting Rashi. Yeah.
I guess it's just because you can kill it, it's not much easier than time that you have to be, you have control.
Right. Tosas asks a question. Where it says in Shabbos, let's say you want chickens that are muktzah, they need a step to jump into the coop, and so chickens on Shabbos are muktzah. They're chickens that are designated for slaughtering. Okay, so you take a basket, turn it over, the chickens they hop on the basket and they hop into the coop. So it says that the basket's not muktzah. Why? So you ask, when the chicken is on the basket is muktzah. You're not permitted to touch the basket because it's supporting the chicken. The chicken's a muktzah. And yet it says when the chicken's off the basket, you can take the basket and use it for whatever you want. So why did the Gemara bring proof from there that a muktzah l'chatzi Shabbos? You see, muktzah is not. Even though there was a period of time that you couldn't move the basket when the chicken was on the basket, right? So therefore, one way of proof from there that muktzah has to be continuous, but if it's reinstated, you see it's not muktzah. That's Tos's question. Tos's answer is there's a big difference. There, when the chicken goes on the basket, the person could always swoosh it away. So every moment, the basket could be available to you. The figs, when you put them on the roof, and the grapes, until the sun shines sufficiently, that is not. It's in a state where it's, at this moment, not edible. And it remains not edible unless something happens. With the chickens on the basket, any moment I want, I could wave my hand and I get them off the basket. So it was always considered equivalent, always available. It's like always being in an edible state. That's how those differentiates. Okay?
It's the same idea as a pig that's too hot to eat and you can throw it out if you wish.
I think the case of the chickens are easier because with the food that's hot, it still takes moments to cool off. Here, instantaneously, you just swoosh them off. The birds are off the basket. Okay? Rabbi Yehuda Nesiyo Havalei Ha'ubuchra. Rabbi Yehuda Nosi, this is not Rabbi Yehuda Nosi, Rabbi Naukodesh. Rabbi Yehuda Nesiyo, he had a Bechor. Shajal Kamid Rabami, and it had a mum. So he sent it before Rabami to evaluate whether it's a mum or not. Okay? Savad lo merchio. He chose not to see it because he held. We had a discussion that evaluating a mum on Yom Tov, it's like giving a psak bezdin. Therefore, you don't do it. Omale Reb Zriko, Vitem Reb Yirmi, Reb Yehuda, Reb Shimon, Halach Reb Yehuda. There's a machlok Reb Yehuda and Reb Shimon rule like Reb Yehuda, and Reb Yehuda is of the opinion, that you permit it. So why did you? Hoda Shajil come into Reb Yitzchak Nafka, Savad Lo Merechio. Again, he sent the same Bechor before Reb Yitzchak Nafka. Again, he chose not to see it, not to rule on it. Amar Reb Yirmi, Vitem Reb Zriko, Reb Yehuda, Reb Shimon, Halach Reb Yehuda. Yeah. 2 seconds. Yeah, but we do see it. Amalei Rebab, my time of Shevkinu, the Rabbono, and the Mevet Uv, the Kreb Shimon. I'll be back in 2 seconds. Step out for a second. Which one said you're not permitted? So he said, well, we have machlok Reb Yehuda, Reb Shimon, we rule like Reb Yehuda. You permitted?
This is the same Reb Yehuda.
No. Reb Yehuda in the Siyah is not Reb Yehuda. Reb Yehuda is Reb Yehuda, Reb Yehuda. He's machlok of Reb Yehuda, Reb Shimon in the Mishnah.
So it's a
Different Reb Yehuda, right? Omalei Rebabo, my time lo shafkinu lo rabbonon, lemever uv the Reb Shimon. Yeah, just the contrary. Why did you send it to the Rabbanon that they conduct themselves like Reb Shimon? Omalei v'adma b'yodoch. He wanted to know. I mean, we're saying the reason why they didn't rule. He says because when there's machlok Reb Yehuda, Reb Shimon, we rule like Reb Yehuda. So he said to him, why don't you send it to the Chacham who follow Reb Shimon? He said, where do you pick that up from? We have a principle, whenever the Machlokes Reb Yehuda and Reb Shimon, we rule like Reb Yehuda. So what do you mean? So how could you rule like Reb Shimon if the rule is, whenever these two people argue, Amalei Hochi Amar Reb Zera. He says, I have a Masorah. Reb Zera says, Halach Reb Shimon. Right? We rule like Reb Shimon. So if we rule like Reb Shimon, it shouldn't be a problem. So Rashi says over here, Atmad biyodach shavks Reb Yehuda bos lemev Reb Shimon misha halach Reb Shimon. Oma man hud echem tami mi yodeh v'lo no deshmo. 1 second. Oh yeah, 1 minute. I just want to see something. Yeah. So he says, Omar, when he heard that Reb Zera said we rule like Reb Shimon, which is l'chumra, Omar man d'hava iski v'ask lohosam v'agru l'shmaitz mipume demora. He said, so when he heard this, he said, I should merit to be able to, he was in Bavel, to go to Eretz Yisrael, to learn it, to hear it directly from the one who actually said over that we rule like Reb Shimon. Rashi says, Aski v'asik yirotzu she'eske lalus le'Yisrael who's in Bavel l'mokum she'Reb Zera sham. Reb Zera is the one who said that we rule like Reb Shimon. I should merit to be able to go to Eretz Yisrael, to the location where Reb Zera is there. The Mora de Shmaitza, the Amri b'Shmeit halach Reb Shimon, because he's the one who's the Baal Masorah who said that we rule like Reb Shimon. V'agru l'Shmaitza pum, that I should be able to learn it directly from his mouth. So when Rabbi went to Eretz Yisrael, he located Reb Zera. Omalei Mar Halok Reb Shimon. He says, did you say, we said over in your name, we rule like Reb Shimon? Which is what? Which is L'chumra. Omalei Lo. Lo Ano. Lo Ano. Omalei Lo. Ano Mistavra Amri. He says, it's not that I have a Masorah, that we rule like Reb Shimon. I said, it seems to be we should rule like Reb Shimon. Mistavra Amri. He says that the mum wasn't obvious before Yom Tiv, it's not considered min hamuchan. And the Brysa cites, so in the Mishnah he cited as an individual, but in the Brysa he cited as Chachomim. So I only said in Svara it seems to be we rule like Reb Shimon, but not that I heard from anybody that we rule like Reb Shimon. I said it seems to be. One second. Just want to see something. Yeah. 1 second. Yeah. The Bryce is over here. Over here, the Gemara Namad Bay is the one what's a Bryce. Yasser Reboshia, also Vaisi Masti Sibioni. Reboshia had come and he brought a Bryce. And it says, Ben Shanol Bo Mum, Be'er Yom, Ben Shanol Mum, Bo Biyom, B'Yom Tiv, Cham Omrim, Ein Zem in Amuchan. Whether the Mum preceded Yom Tiv or not, but if it wasn't judged by evaluated, it's Muktzah. So that's what he said. The reason why it was a svara, since in the Mishnah Reb Shimon is identified as a minority, and in the Brysa he's mentioned as a chachomim, the position. Therefore, that's why I thought we rule like Reb Shimon. Mahavalo said that more. Basically, what's the halacha? Do we rule like Reb Yehuda? Do we rule like Reb Shimon? Omer Rav Yosef Toshma, bring a proof. The Talya Bashli Ravi. It's all dependent upon the great scholars. Ashlim is the great three ropes. How does he explain Ashli Rabbi? He says Chavolim. The Chavolim Gedolim Vegas Shekoshen Li Notek. Kloma Chachom Gedolim Ruah Vein Nochen Levatel Devreim. just as if you have a thick rope, it binds. It's binding. 3 great ropes had said this. The Omer Reb Shimon ben Bazi, Omer Reb Yeshua ben Levi. Reb Shimon said in the name of Reb Shimon ben Levi, Omer Reb Yosef ben Shaul, Omer Rebbe, Mishum Kala Kedisha Yerushalayim. And Reb Yosef ben Shaul said it in the name of Rebbe, in the name of the Kala Kedisha Yerushalayim. Reb Shimon Chaverov Omru, Reb Shimon and his colleagues said, Halacha Reb Meir. Halacha, we rule like Reb Meir. Omru V'Inu Kshishiminei. Tuva. How could you say they said name of Reb Meir? The people who were quoting, they were much older Reb Meir. You quote somebody who was at your time or before you. Here they're quoting somebody who is after them. How could they quote? El B'Shitas Reb Meir Amrua. Meaning, it's not they're quoting Reb Meir, but their position, the same position as Reb Meir. Who is Reb Meir? Did not. Ashochet is a Bechor. Person went slaughtered Bechor, which he shouldn't have. Maka and had a mum, but he didn't have it ruled on before he slaughtered it. He took a chance. Akach heras mumo, and then he showed the mum to a chochem. Reb Yehuda matir. Reb Yehuda says you permitted to have it, because fact, since it turned out that it was a mum, even though he did the wrong thing. This is unrelated to unrelated to Shabbos and Yom Tov. During the week, it had a blemish. He has no right to slaughter it till he shows to a chacham. He went, he took his chances, he slaughtered it, he showed it to a chacham afterwards. So the Tana Kama says, Reb Yehuda matir, Reb Meir Omer, Hov nishcha pi chacham oser. Reb Meir says no, that since he slaughtered it, not after a ruling of a chacham, we penalize him. We don't let him eat the meat, even though factually it is about mum. But since he did it in a way which he shouldn't have, it's considered irresponsible, we penalize him that he shouldn't do this in the future. That's Reb Meir. Almak Sov Reb Meir, Riyas Bechor, look Riyas Treifa. Evidently, Reb Meir holds that ruling on a Bechor is not different ruling than on a Treifa. Riyas Bechor Michaim, Riyas Treifa Lacham Shchita. Riyas Bechor is what? When you have to evaluate a Bechor, the animal's alive. You don't have to slaughter it. If you slaughter a Bechor, it turns out not to be a mum, what's the halacha? It's a Torah violation. A treifa, you only know it's a treifa only after you slaughter it. Right? Let's say you slaughter it on Yom Tov. Do we say that you did the wrong thing? You didn't do the wrong thing. Because the majority of animals are not treifa, don't have a defect. So the presumption is it would be okay. It turned out to be. 1 second. Riyas Bechor, look, Riyas Treifa. Riyas Bechor Michaim. When do you evaluate a Bechor, whether it's whether it's a permanent blemish or not? That's when it's alive. Riyas Treifa Lacha Shchita. To evaluate whether it's a treifa or not, whether it has an internal, you have to slaughter it first. Umino Riyas Treifa Afilu B'Yom Tiv. The halacha is you're permitted to rule on a treifa, even Yom Tiv. Let's person slaughters an animal in Yom Tiv, and he has a question: is the lung perforated or not perforated? And he shows it to the chacham. He's permitted to rule. Riyas Bechor be'erev Yom Tiv. But if you want to rule on the blemish of Bechor, that has to be done erev Yom Tiv. Omer Abaye. So seemingly we want to say, from there you see, we rule like Reb Meir, and therefore we're machmir. 1 second. Omale Abaye Oto Hosem Ron Bimumin Pligi Knosa Pligi. Over there, the argument is not whether you're permitted to evaluate a mum on Yom Tov or not. Over here, the issue was, do we penalize him? Reb Meir says we penalize him. The other one said we don't penalize him. Right? That's the discussion. So they say over there you do penalize him. He wants to say they had a Bechor and we wanted to rule on Yom Tov. What's the shaila? Are you permitted to rule not? He says, well, it seems to be it's that argument. So Abaye is saying that argument has no relevance to our whole discussion there. There's a question of a person slaughtered a Bechor during the weekday without asking the shaila first. There's not, do we penalize? No, we penalize him for doing the wrong thing. Our discussion over here is the court. The Chacham ruling, is that considered like Niruch Masakin? Or is that considered the equivalent of the court giving a decision on Yom Tov, which they're not permitted? Here, if we do, let's say the blemish is in the eye, and it's a thing which it's not clear. Even though one moment it may look like it, other moment it looks differently. Dukan Shabbayin, if you have this blemish in the eye, Filu Rabbi Yehuda Moda Osam Shemishtan al Achamisa, Yesh Dok Shenir al Achamisa, Shchuta. Yes, he's saying like this. Let's say an animal has a cut ear, a cut lip. Whether it's alive or dead, it's a cut lip. When you look, it has a type of what's it called? Cataract. Has a cataract on the eye. When the animal's alive, it looks one way. When it dies, it looks different. So therefore, by evaluating it on Yom Tif, it's not going to mean anything, because maybe factually it's not a mum. Even though it looks, after it dies, it looks like a mum. When it was alive, it wasn't a mum. So therefore, you can't give a ruling after it's been killed to be able to what? To be able to eat it. Because maybe if it would be alive, you would see that what? It doesn't look, it's not a defect. Okay? So he says, everybody agrees that you're not permitted to eat it. Why? Because there's a change in the eye. When it's alive, the eye looks different when it's alive, when it's dead. They're arguing we have a blemish on the body. If you allow the Chacham to rule on the mum on the body, it'll be confused with the blemish in the eye. And the eye, you can't take a chance. Rabbi Yehuda Sava lo gazir. We don't make such a gzeiro. Omer Rav Nachman Yitzchok Masis Nami Deiko. You're able to deduce this from the Mishnah. We're speaking about a specific type of blemish, the cataract in the eye. Since it was slaughtered initially not by the ruling of an expert, Osir. Shmamino Knosu. So clearly it says, since it wasn't really, if the expert would have ruled, you could eat it. But since it was not slaughtered through an expert, so what is the claim against the person? It wasn't done through an expert. Right? Shmamino Knosu. The Kokona Shmamino, it's conclusive. So that argument there has nothing to do with our discussion in the Mishnah. Whether you're permitted to rule on a B'chor on Yom Tif or not a B'chor on Yom Tif. Okay. Ami Vardino. Person's name is Ami Vardino. Chosi Bukhra de Benesio. He went and he ruled, he evaluated a B'chor of the Benesio. Havi biyoma tovo. V'nesiva havo. Hava biyoma tovo, lo havo. Amin choze bukhro de v'nesio. Hava biyoma tovo, lo choze, lo have choze. On Yom Tov, he would not see it. This Ami Verdino normally would see Mumin, on Yom would not see it. They said to Rabami that what? He's doing the right thing not to see it. How could they say to Rabami that it's the right thing not to do it? Is Ami Verdino. Factually, he did. Rabami kechosi mi'esam habechosi. He would actually evaluate it before Yom Tif, the mum. Ubi Yom Tif shiuli koshayol hechi habu uvdo. Hear this. He already. They say, Rabbi, could you check out the animal before Yom Tif? He'll come back tomorrow morning, which is Yom Tif. But he already made his decision before Yom Tif. He knew what it was. He's just informing him on Yom Tif what his decision was from before Yom Tif. So therefore, the evaluation is not Yom Tif. Right, so it has no relevance that the court's not permitted to give a ruling on Yom Tov. His ruling was before Yom Tov. He's just informing of the ruling. That's what it says. Yom Tov, shuli koshayel, hechi abu. What happened? So Rashi says, there were times he was preoccupied for Yom Tov. He had no time to speak to people. So he says, I'll take care of it. He said, come back tomorrow, I'll let you know. Yeah. See, one of the questions he would ask, even though he saw it before, he said, come back tomorrow. Kohanim, they were suspect that they would intentionally make a mum, because otherwise they have to hold it forever, because it could only be brought to the Beis Hamikdash. So he would, by interrogating them, asking questions, he would know. So factually, he made the evaluation before Yom Tov that it's a mum. It's a mum. But that may not be sufficient that he's going to allow them to slaughter it. Because if they intentionally caused it to become a Baal Mum, he's not going to let them slaughter it, because that's a penalty. Okay? So from there, we don't have a proof that he rules that you're permitted to evaluate it on Yom Tov. He already evaluated before Yom Tov. He's only informing them if he feels that they didn't do intentionally, then he'll let them slaughter the animal. Yeah. Who gavra daisi bucher lekami derova. Apanya demali yom tova. This person brought a bucher to Rava. It was what? It was erev Yom Tov, towards the evening. Havayosu Rava kochai v'reishe doli eine. He was taking a shampoo, washing his head before Yom Tov. Dol eine v'chaz lemume. He lifted his eye and took a glance at the mum. This is Rava. Amale zilu idem v'seid. He says, go wait today, come back tomorrow. But he already looked at it. He says, tell me, how did it become a Baal Mum? Now he's asking the child. So he already knew it was a Baal Mum from before Yom Tov. Okay? Rava. So he says, now that we're able to sit and talk, tell me, how did it happen? He says, I put oats on the other side of the fence, and now the animal, if it has to go through the fence and the fence has briars, what's going to happen to the animal? It sticks its head there, through that area. It's going to get lacerated. Yeah? And the boy mechel, and as the animal wants to eat, as it wants to eat, it lifts its head, and it has its lip cut as a result of these hutza, on a branch. So he says to the Kohen, maybe you're the one who caused it. You set up this kind of scenario. It should eat. That should become a Baal Mum. So if that's the case, it's a basis to penalize you. Amalei lo. He says, no, that's not what happened. The garmos. So how do we know that you're not permitted to cause a blemish in an animal, which is kochim, even through indirect cause? How do we know grom is osir? The tema de grom osir. The tanya ba mum lo yebo. It says the animal should not have a mum. Ein li elo shlo yebo. Yeah. Mum shlo yebo mum minay shlo yigrum lo al davar acher. How do we know that you can't cause it? I mean, that you shouldn't make it. That. What about through causality caused it? Listen to the case. You put dough or you put a sweet fig on the ear of the animal, because you want a dog to come. It's going to be something which is going to be desirous to the dog. It'll jump, bite the person's ear, and that's it. Or bite the animal's ear. Omalei kolmum, omamum, omakolmum. Yeah, it could have said mum lo yebo. It should not have a mum. What's any kind of mum means? Even a mum that comes about through causality, even that you're not permitted to do. Now you see something interesting. We rule halacha that grumma bin yizokim potter. If a person causes somebody else to be damaged through indirect cause, there's no liability. The court cannot convict you. I mean, so if we already know grumma is usur, indirect cause that you're not permitted to do it on Torah level, so what's the first question here? How do we know that you're not allowed to cause the animal to come a Baal Mum? Through indirect cause, so according to Pasuk, it doesn't only say mum yellow, it says kol mum, regardless how it comes about. And what would the case be? Where you put a piece of dough on the animal's ear, and now a dog can come grab it, and when it grabs it, it puts its teeth into the ear. What do we need a special Pasuk? Why is it any different than any other case of grumma? You're not permitted to cause a person financial loss through grumma. So here, you're not permitted to cause the animal to become a Baal Mum through grumma. Right? What difference does it make? second. Okay.